Hello and welcome to Morehouse's Math Menagerie. Today we're going to be talking about Venn diagrams. But before we begin, I wanted to show you in Elk River there is the Idaho Champion Western Red Cedar Tree. This is the largest tree in the state and it's estimated to be over 3,000 years old. It stands more than 177 feet tall and is 18 feet in diameter. I found a picture on the internet for you. That's a pretty darn big tree. Okay, so here is a Venn diagram. This is using data regarding social media use by 18 to 24-year-olds. You can see that we have Snapchat and Twitter here. Each circle represents the proportion or percentage of the population that uses Snapchat or uses Twitter. And we have it broken up into 4 separate regions. This region to the left here, that's only Snapchat, is 57%. The region on the right is Twitter only at 22%. And where they overlap in the middle shows the percent of the population that uses both Snapchat and Twitter. Now, outside both circles would be the proportion of the population that uses neither Snapchat nor Twitter. So let's answer some questions using this data. It says here, what is the probability that a randomly selected 18 to 24-year-old uses Snapchat? Well, you can see that 57% use Snapchat only, and 16% use both Snapchat and Twitter. So that 16% needs to be added to the 57% to get a total of 0.73. So if we randomly selected a 18 to 24-year-old from the population, we'd have about a 73% chance of them using Snapchat. Okay, another question here. It says, what is the probability that a randomly selected 18 to 24-year-old uses neither Snapchat nor Twitter? This would be the area outside of both circles. Now, the entire population is represented by 100% because that's everybody in the population. So here we need to take and add up the proportions that use Snapchat and Twitter and then subtract that from 1. So 0.05 is the proportion of the population that does not use Snapchat nor Twitter. So there'd be a 0.05 for our probability. Here's a Venn diagram of how the Q1 exam went for many of you. Okay, here is some data regarding pets and caffeine that I collected from my students in the beginning of the year survey. It's organized in a 2-way table. If we wanted to make a Venn diagram out of this, the first thing we would do is we would draw our 2 circles, making sure there's a room for them to overlap. And then we would label one pets. That means the people inside that circle own pets, and a circle for caffeine. And so the people inside that circle would be people who drink caffeine. By adding up all of the data in the table, we get a sample size of 491. So if we wanted to look at how many people owned pets and drink caffeine, we would look here at this 216, and 216 divided by 491, we get a proportion of 0.4399. That would go in the shared portion of the 2 circles. For those who have pets but do not drink caffeine, we would look at that 181 out of 491, and we get a proportion of 0.3694. So across in the caffeine circle, if we wanted to look at people who drink caffeine and do not have pets, we would divide 50 by 491 and we get 0.1018. And then finally, if we wanted to look at the proportion that do not drink caffeine nor own pets, we would look at that 44 over 419 and we get 0.0896. Okay, so let's apply this to a problem. A recent poll of high school students regarding their preferred music streaming app found that 68% use Spotify and 38% use Pandora and 24% use both. We're going to start by making a Venn diagram of this so we can answer a few questions. They tell us that 24 use both. So if there's 24% in the shared portion of the circles, that means if we want to look at just Spotify, we have to do the 68 minus that 24. So only 44% use just Spotify. And then applying that same logic to Pandora, Out of that 38%, 24 are already accounted for in that middle section. So 38 minus that 24 shows us that 14% use only Pandora. So if we wanted to find the probability that a randomly chosen student uses neither music streaming service, again, this would be the people outside of both circles. So we would take 1 and subtract out the proportions within the circles. We get 1 minus 0.82, which is 0.18. Thank you for joining us today. I'll leave you with my new favorite quote from Jean Piaget.